It should be noted that while the distinction between power and exploration improvements can be imprecise as in the area of game design itself, the main purpose of distinguishing between these concepts is to distinguish when the game designer wants to allow the player to optionally increase his resources, or when it is mandatory for game progress. We divide improvements into two categories: performance improvements, which affect player resources by increasing or altering them, and which are inherently progressive and non-mandatory or exploratory improvements, which provide the player with new features and capabilities, and which are inherently non-progressive and generally mandatory. Note that with this approach, the game designer can know that the player will mostly face fair opponents before getting the necessary upgrades in order to move on to more difficult challenges. We then use this nomenclature to determine when and for what we can add updates to the game through simple numerical analysis of game difficulty. On the other hand, if these updates were mandatory, this approach would prohibit some players from completing the game. For example, the risk and challenge may be too great, which is ultimately the worst possible punishment in the game. In this article, we will see how improvements can be used in terms of game design to give players a sense of progress and reward. The first examples that come to mind for TMC power enhancements are heart muscles. Collecting 4 of them gives the player a heart container that increases their maximum health by 1. Because of their non-binding nature, power boosts are useful to trigger dedication as rewards for overcoming difficult quests or finding secret areas in the game. In a more direct approach, some enhancements can simply be offered to the player as the game progresses. In a general and open interpretation, these changes in game mechanisms and features can be called upgrades. In addition, optional upgrades can be used to change the game experience and perception of difficulty.